All right, main idea, let's just dive right in. By combining indigenous and classical music, Cree composer and cellist Chris Dirksen creates works that reflect the diverse cultural landscapes of Canada. So you're combining things, there's diversity. I see some repetition of an idea here. For her album, Orchestral Powwow, Dirksen composed new songs in the style of traditional powwow music that were accompanied by classical arrangements played by an orchestra. But where an orchestra would normally follow the directions of a conductor, the musicians on Orchestral Powwow are led by the beat of a powwow drum. So there's just like a lot of detail. So it seems to just be reiterating what they said in the first sentence. So let's look at the choices. To examine how Dirksen's musical compositions blend cultures. Well, blend is another word for combine. It has to do with diversity. So that word kind of matches the other words that are in there. I really like that one. They definitely are talking about music. They're talking about culture, right? The indigenous culture and the classical culture, I guess. But let's look at B. To argue that Dirksen should be recognized for creating a new style of music. This is really tempting. This is definitely a trap. The problem is they never actually say it's a new style of music, right? They say that she's doing it, but at no point are they saying she's the first to do it. So this is why we need to notice strong words in the answer choices. This has like that kind of feel that it might be right, especially because you're like, well, then if she wasn't the first to do it, why are we talking about her? What makes her so special? Maybe nothing. Maybe nothing makes her special. They just, randomly Googled a person. Who knows when they wrote this passage. But that word new is a strong word. It carries a very specific meaning, and we need to be able to prove that with the passage. I don't see anything here saying that she's the first to do this, so that word is not provable. Let's look at C. To describe the difficulties Dirksen encountered. No, difficulties is negative. This is definitely not a negative passage. D. To establish a contrast between Dirksen's classical training and her Cree heritage. Well, contrast is also kind of a negative word, which I don't love, right? They're not saying that these are things like opposing forces. These are things that are working together to kind of support her music. So honestly, I could see that D is maybe second best, but A is definitely the answer here. It's much more kind of simple and straightforward, right? It's examining how the compositions blend the cultures, right? It's blending it. They get into specifics maybe about how they're blending it in this particular piece. I don't really care about that for the answer choice, but I think it's kind of a much more neutral choice compared to D, which I think has that negative vibe. So if you are between two choices that seem similar, there's obviously a difference. Try to focus on connotation, try to narrow it down to just a couple words. But what really does it for me in A is that the word blend is kind of like the exact same word as in that first sentence there. Combining things, blending them, that's not a coincidence. The SAT definitely designs answers to kind of match ideas and parts of the passage. So look for that similarity.